Do you honestly think your enemy is the one who attacks you openly, the one who spits insults, shows clear hostility, and makes it obvious they want to see you fail? That is a dangerous mistake. Your most lethal enemies aren't the ones looking for a fight. They are the ones who influence your mind quietly, sometimes even under the mask of friendship. They aren't after your assets, at least, not yet. First, they want to seize the only territory that matters, the space between your ears. You felt it, that sudden suffocating heat in your chest when someone jokingly undermines you in public. That frantic, desperate urge to type a 3-paragraph defense when your words are misunderstood. Your psyche screams for justice. It demands a correction. But here is the brutal truth. Reaction is submission. The moment you begin to explain yourself to these people, you have already lost the hierarchy. You aren't defending your honor. You are begging for their approval. Every word you utter in your defense is a drop of status bleeding out of you. Real power is quiet. It doesn't grunt. It doesn't shout. If someone can trigger your anger, they have successfully mapped your nervous system. They know which buttons to press to make you move. To them, you aren't a threat. You are a predictable machine. As long as they can forecast your emotional response, they own you. Think of your mind as a fortress. Most people think an enemy takes a fortress by storming the gates. They don't. They take it by siege of attrition. They send poisoned letters, subtle slights, friendly provocations, calculated lies. They are waiting for you to open the gates and rush out in a panic. And the moment you do, the fortress falls. In this video, we are changing the game. We are going to explore 7 deadly Machiavellian strategies designed to erase your enemy's influence without a single argument. We will show you how to starve their narrative of oxygen, how to weaponize their own expectations, and how to reach a state where their very existence becomes irrelevant to your progress. This is not for the virtuous. If you believe the world is built on fairness, turn this off now. But if you are ready to stop reacting and start operating, let's begin. The first mistake most people make when facing an enemy is believing that the conflict begins when words are exchanged. It doesn't. The conflict begins the moment they observe you. Every twitch of your eyes, every defensive posture, and every hurried explanation is data. And in the world of Machiavellian strategy, data is the ammunition your enemy uses to build a map of your soul. Your psyche demands that you respond. When you are accused of something you didn't do, or when someone accidentally leaves you out of an important thread, your brain perceives a threat to your status. It floods your system with cortisol. It pushes you to fix the situation. You want to set the record straight. You want to show them you aren't bothered. But here is the trap. By trying to prove you aren't bothered, you provide the ultimate proof that you are. We call this first strategy the data void. In the digital age, everyone is addicted to feedback loops. Your enemy throws a stone and waits for the splash. They insult you and wait for the anger. They bypass you and wait for the complaint. When you react, you complete their circuit. You give them the splash. They need to feel powerful. But what happens when the stone hits the water and there is no sound, no ripple, no movement? This creates a psychological phenomenon known as predictive error. Your enemy's brain has already prepared for your reaction. When that reaction never comes, their nervous system short-circuits. They are left holding an empty bag. By giving them nothing, you create a vacuum, a data void, and human nature abhors a vacuum. Think of yourself as a black hole. You aren't just ignoring them, you are absorbing their energy and giving back absolute silence. You are becoming a destination where their influence goes to die. When you refuse to provide feedback, the enemy begins to project their own insecurities into the silence. They start to wonder, did I go too far? Do they know something I don't? Are they planning a counter-strike I can't see? Silence isn't a weakness, it is a form of aggressive observation. While they are busy performing, trying to get a rise out of you, they are exposing their tactics, their desperation, and their limits. You, on the other hand, remain a closed book. You are unmeasurable, and what cannot be measured cannot be managed. You must understand, measurability is vulnerability. If they know what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, and what makes you scream. They have the remote control to your life. By entering the data void, you take that remote and smash it. Let them starve for information. Let them suffocate in the quiet you've created. Because in this game, the one who needs the least information to operate is the one who wins. And the one who provides the least information is the one who rules. There is a specific kind of agony that comes with being lied about. You've likely felt it, that burning, frantic desperation when someone spreads a false rumor, misrepresents your intentions, or crafts a narrative that paints you as the villain. Your instinct, driven by thousands of years of social evolution, is to fix it. Your psyche tells you that if you don't correct the record, the lie becomes the truth. You want to gather evidence, call witnesses, and shout your innocence from the rooftops. But in the Machiavellian framework, this is exactly where you walk into the slaughterhouse. We call this strategy the unstable narrative. You must understand a fundamental law of psychological warfare. A narrative is not a solid object, it is a living parasite that requires constant feeding. When an enemy creates a lie about you, they are building a house on a foundation of sand. For that house to stand, it needs a load-bearing wall, and in every social conflict, you are that wall. Your reaction, your defense, and your anger are what give their lie its structure. When you rush to correct a lie, you are inadvertently validating it. You are telling the world that the lie is significant enough to warrant your time. You are signaling that the enemy's opinion has the power to disrupt your peace. By engaging with the narrative, you breathe oxygen into the fire. But what happens when you simply refuse to acknowledge the distortion? When you offer no correction, the narrative becomes unstable. It lacks a counterforce to lean against. Think of it like this: if you push against a wall, you can stand upright. But if you push against thin air, you stumble forward and fall on your face. By refusing to engage, you are the thin air. Your enemy is now in a precarious position. They have made a claim, and you have met it with a deafening, indifferent silence. To the observers, your lack of defense doesn't look like guilt. It looks like superiority. It looks like the lie is so beneath your station that you didn't even hear it. There is an asymmetry of power at play here. The one who explains is the one who is subordinate. The one who remains silent is the one who defines reality. Your psyche may scream that you are being misunderstood, but you must realize that being misunderstood by an enemy is a position of strength. Let the lie rot. Without your participation, the enemy is forced to overproduce. They have to tell bigger lies, make louder claims, and act more erratically to get a rise out of you. This is the moment they begin to look unstable to the rest of the world. They become the obsessed hater, while you remain the unmoved professional. You aren't just ignoring a rumor. You are letting the enemy destroy their own credibility. Lies have a short shelf life. They require constant updates from the victim to stay relevant. If you don't provide the update, the narrative withers. Stop trying to manage your reputation. Your reputation is a shadow. It follows you, but you don't control it by grabbing at the ground. You control it by where you stand and how you move. If you move with purpose and indifference, the shadow eventually aligns. The lie is a gift. It is an opportunity to show the world and your enemy that your reality is not up for negotiation. If they want to build a fantasy world where you are the villain, let them. Just make sure they have to build it alone, in the dark, with no help from you. Remember, a fire without fuel isn't a fire, it's just a pile of cold ash. Don't be the wood. Most people believe that to defeat an enemy, you must keep them under constant pressure. You think that by staying on guard and showing your teeth, you are protecting yourself. You believe that an atmosphere of tension keeps your opponent in check, but your psyche is playing a trick on you. In reality, constant pressure creates a controlled enemy. When people feel hunted, they become hyper-vigilant. They hide their tracks. They censor their words. They become the most disciplined version of themselves, because they know you are watching. By being aggressive, you are actually helping your enemy stay sharp. The Machiavellian master does the opposite. We call this strategy the false sanctuary. The most effective way to destroy an enemy is not to attack them. It is to remove the pressure that keeps them controlled. You must understand, tension is a mirror. If you are tense, they are tense. But if you provide a sense of total, unearned safety, the enemy begins to relax. And in that relaxation lies their ruin. You've likely felt this, the loose tongue that comes after a long day when the guard finally drops. This is what we are weaponizing. When you stop acting like a threat, your enemy stops acting like a soldier. They become uncurated. They start to believe their own lies. They begin to project. In psychology, there is a concept. Projection is an involuntary confession. When a manipulator feels safe, they stop calculating. They start to talk. They start to brag. They start to attribute their own hidden motives to others. By creating a sanctuary, you aren't being nice. You are building an interrogation room with no walls. Machiavelli understood that the greatest intelligence isn't gathered through spies, but through the carelessness of the comfortable. When you treat your enemy with a polite, distant safety, you are giving them enough rope to hang themselves. You are waiting for the moment their ego outruns their intellect. Think of it as the predator's silence. A wolf doesn't growl while it's tracking. It stays silent so the prey forgets it's being followed. When you remove the friction of conflict, the enemy's true nature, their greed, their spite, their insecurity, comes rushing to the surface. They will say things they can't take back. They will make moves they haven't thought through. They will expose their allies and reveal their weaknesses, all because you were kind enough to stop pushing. But you must be careful. Your ego will hate this. Your ego wants to win the argument now. It wants to see the enemy suffer now. The false sanctuary requires you to suppress your own need for immediate victory. You have to let them win the small talk, so you can win the war. You have to be comfortable being perceived as harmless while you are actually becoming unstoppable. Give your enemy a golden bridge to retreat across, Sun Tzu said. But Machiavelli adds a darker twist. Make the bridge beautiful, make it feel safe, and make sure it leads exactly where you want them to go. Stop fighting for inches. Stop the constant bickering and the standing your ground. Step back. Create the vacuum of safety. Let them walk into the room, thinking they've already won. Because a person who thinks they've won is a person who has stopped looking for traps, and that is exactly when the floor disappears. In the theater of psychological warfare, time is the only variable your enemy cannot control directly, unless you hand it to them. You've likely felt that crushing sense of urgency when an enemy corners you, a passive-aggressive email that demands an immediate reply, a confrontation in the hallway that forces you to speak now, a crisis manufactured specifically to make you panic. Your psyche is wired to resolve tension as quickly as possible. This is a survival instinct. Your brain wants to close the loop to stop the flow of stress hormones. But for the Machiavellian strategist, urgency is a confession of weakness. When you rush to respond, you are moving at their speed. You are dancing to their metronome. We call this strategy temporal dominance. The goal of your enemy is to keep you in a state of reactive flow. If they can keep the pace fast enough, you won't have time to consult your logic. You will only have time to consult your emotions. By forcing a fast tempo, they strip you of your greatest advantage, your ability to think 3 moves ahead. To seize power, you must introduce temporal arrhythmia. You must break the rhythm of expectation. When a provocation is thrown at you, the world expects a reaction within seconds. Your enemy's nervous system is primed for it. They are leaning forward, waiting for the impact. By simply delaying your response, whether by 10 seconds in a room or 2 days over email, you force the enemy to sustain the tension they created. Think of the tyranny of the wait. When you don't respond, the enemy's mind doesn't just stay still, it begins to spiral. They start to overanalyze their own attack. Did I miss something? Why are they so calm? Is my move so insignificant it doesn't even deserve a reply? By doing nothing, you have turned their own clock into a torture device. Machiavelli noted that time is the father of truth, but in conflict, time is the father of doubt. When you control the tempo, you control the temperature of the conflict. By slowing down, you cool your own emotions and overheat theirs. There is a profound scarcity of attention here. The faster you respond, the cheaper your attention becomes. If you are always available, always reactive, and always on, you are a commodity. But if you are the one who dictates when the conversation happens, you become the authority. You must treat your response like a high-value asset. It is not something to be tossed away in a moment of heat. It is something to be delivered only when the enemy has exhausted themselves waiting for it. Your psyche will resist this. It will tell you that silence looks like losing or hiding. You must ignore that voice. In reality, the person who can sit with the silence the longest is the one who holds the most power in the room. Next time you are pressured to react, ask yourself, whose clock am I looking at? If it's theirs, stop, breathe, let the urgency expire, let the deadline pass, force them to live in the vacuum you've created. Because when the rhythm of the game is yours, the outcome is already decided. Every enemy you face is a programmer, and they are trying to write a script for your life. To manipulate you, they first have to model you. They observe your patterns, your values, and your habits. They build a mental simulation of how you will behave under stress. Once they have a working model of your personality, they stop fighting you and start fighting the model. They know exactly how much pressure to apply to get a specific result. You've likely felt the suffocating weight of being too reliable. You are the person who always stays late, the one who always takes the high road, the one who always responds with politeness even when insulted. This consistency is your pride, but in the eyes of a Machiavellian predator, it is your greatest vulnerability. Your consistency makes you a target. It allows them to plan their attacks with 100% certainty. To break their hold, you must trigger a model collapse. In Machiavellian strategy, power doesn't come from being chaotic. It comes from being selectively unpredictable. The goal isn't to become a person who lacks logic. It is to remain perfectly predictable in 99% of your life, maintaining your routines, your work ethic, and your public persona, so that when you deploy that 1% of pure, calculated unpredictability, it hits with the force of an earthquake. Think of it as strategic static. When you suddenly do the opposite of what your model dictates, you aren't just changing your mind, you are destroying your enemy's confidence in their own judgment. If you have always been the one to seek reconciliation after a fight, and this time you simply walk away and never look back, the model collapses. If you have always been the one to stay silent under criticism, and you suddenly ask one sharp, devastatingly calm question that exposes the critic's motive, the model collapses. This creates a state of cognitive paralysis. Your enemy is forced to go back to the beginning. They have to reevaluate every interaction they've ever had with you. They begin to ask, who is this person? Was the previous version a mask? What are they truly capable of? Machiavelli advised that a leader should occasionally perform extraordinary acts to keep the people in awe and the enemies in fear. These acts don't need to be grand, they just need to be out of character. Your psyche will resist this because your ego wants to be understood. We have a deep human need to be seen as consistent and good, but being understood by an enemy is just another word for being conquered. By introducing selective unpredictability, you turn the tables. You force them to spend their mental energy trying to decode you, while you use your energy to move toward your goals. The secret is to be boringly predictable in the small things, so that your rare deviations are treated as catastrophic events. Become a riddle they can't solve. Become a variable they can't account for in their equations. Because when an enemy can no longer predict your next move, they stop attacking and start retreating into their own insecurities. Remember, if they can't map you, they can't trap you. Break the model. Become the ghost in their machine. Most people believe that a conflict ends when someone wins. They think there is a final confrontation, a grand apology, or a moment of settling the score. Your psyche is hardwired to crave closure. This is the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological phenomenon where the human brain remembers uncompleted tasks better than completed ones. Your enemy is suffering from this too. When they attack you, gossip about you, or sabotage you, they are opening a loop in their own mind. They are waiting for the second half of the transaction, your retaliation. They want the final argument. They want the big talk where everything is laid out on the table. Why? because even a negative ending provides relief. It allows their brain to file the conflict away and move on. The Machiavellian master denies them this relief. We call this strategy the denied closure. You've likely felt the urge to get the last word. You think that by telling someone off, you are winning. You aren't. By giving them a final showdown, you are giving them the closure they need to sleep at night. You are healing their brain. But what happens when you simply vanish? When you cut someone off without an explanation? When you ignore their "we need to talk" message? When you walk out of a toxic situation and never provide a post-mortem? You are leaving the loop open forever. By denying them an ending, you condemn your enemy to a mental loop. Their brain will replay the conflict thousands of times, trying to find the missing piece. They will obsess over why you didn't respond, what you are thinking, and whether you are still angry, or worse, whether you have forgotten they even exist. This is the prison of the unfinished. Machiavelli understood that the greatest injury is not the one that leaves a scar, but the one that leaves a question. A scar heals. A question festers. While you are moving forward, building your empire, and focusing on your goals, your enemy is stuck in the past, paralyzed by the lack of closure. They are burning their mental energy trying to solve a puzzle you have already thrown away. Your psyche will try to sabotage you here. It will tell you that you are being immature, or that you owe them an explanation. You must realize that explanations are just another form of submission. You owe no one a map of your internal world. There is a terrifying power in the unsaid. When you refuse to participate in the ending, you remain the protagonist of their story, but they become a ghost in yours. The goal isn't to make them move on. The goal is to make them stay right where they are, exhausted, confused, and forever waiting for a finale that you will never deliver. The most expensive thing you can give someone is closure. Don't give it away for free. Don't even sell it. Just keep it. We have reached the final stage, but this isn't just a conclusion. It is a transformation. The previous 7 strategies were tools to manage the world around you. This final principle is about the world inside you. We call it inaccessibility. You've likely spent a lifetime believing that winning means standing over a defeated opponent. Your psyche is addicted to the visible victory, the moment they admit they were wrong, the moment the truth comes out, the moment you are vindicated. But as long as you need that moment, you are still their prisoner. You are still waiting for a permission slip from your enemy to feel at peace. True Machiavellian power is reached only when the enemy becomes irrelevant. When you achieve total inaccessibility, the previous tricks become automatic. You don't have to try to suppress a reaction. There is simply nothing to react to. You don't have to manage a narrative. Their lies don't affect your movement. You don't have to weaponize expectations. Your path no longer depends on their perception. You have exited the game. This is what Machiavelli truly meant when he spoke of the prince's virtue. It isn't about cruelty. It is about a radical detachment coupled with a relentless direction. The untouchable individual is not cold or broken. They are complete, and completeness is invulnerable. Enemies cannot defeat what they cannot reach. They cannot manipulate what does not need their validation. They cannot threaten what has already decided its own destiny. This is the end of vulnerability. Once you reach this state, there is no returning to the old version of you, because a mind that no longer needs permission cannot be ruled again. You are no longer responding to life. You are operating. If this journey into the darker side of human psychology has opened your eyes, then you belong with us. We are building a community of those who refuse to be predictable, those who refuse to be managed, and those who choose to lead their own lives with surgical precision. Don't let this be the last time we sharpen your mind. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Join us and ensure that in the game of life you are always the leader, never the pawn. Become unreachable. Become untouchable. We will see you in the next one.